Hey, Amy from blog Blossoming Life, and today I want to share with you 5 homemaking hacks to make your life so much easier and things to go a little bit smoother. So I figured out once I had 3 kids that I kind of had to stop winging everything in my life. And then when I had 4 kids, I was like, wow, I really need to get organized. And so these are just some tips and tricks that I have learned that have just made things go so much smoother in my day and have just made me a little bit more productive with 4 kids, trying to run a business and trying to be a homemaker and a homeschooler and all of the things. So the first tip is to have your kids help. Kids are super capable and it's really good for them to help out. It gives them a sense of responsibility and to just be helpful and learn to be helpful. And so my kids have a daily list of chores that they need to do, and this is for the bigger kids. My 2-year-old does not. My son actually empties the dishwasher, but he can't reach some of this stuff, and so I kind of follow up behind him and do the rest. But they have daily chores that they do every single day, feeding the animals. My daughter does the chickens, and then they also have some weekly chores that they're responsible for, like cleaning their bathroom, mopping, and those sorts of things. And this is helpful for me, obviously, but also it helps keep our house cleaner all the time. It's a good routine for them to kind of stick to. The next tip is to batch as much work as you can to get it done faster. So when I'm in the kitchen, I'm going to be making multiple things, because what's the point of just making one thing when I can start another? And then that way I have less cleanup to do. One example of this is making like muffins or cookies or anything like that. I'm already making a bowl full of dough. I might as well make another bowl full of dough, and then I don't have to clean in between. I can just reuse that same bowl. It's like almost the exact same ingredients. Another way is by doubling or tripling any recipe that I make. So if I do a thing of muffins, I will make at least a double batch of muffins, and then I will freeze the other half. So I'll have muffins for this week, and then I'll have muffins for next week. And so that way it just makes my life easier. I have less cleaning to do, which is always a plus. When you make a lot of things from scratch, you tend to have a lot of cleanup. And so this is just one way to make things simpler. Also, if my hands are already dirty, I just continue doing other dirty work, if that makes sense. So I'm already washing the dishes, and so I might as well just wipe down the sink, wipe down, different surfaces, or take out the trash, or do something that my hands are already dirty. I might as well do it. I wash my hands so much, and so this kind of helps me reduce the amount of washing if I'm jumping back and forth between them, so my hands are not quite as dry. On a random note, I am making deodorant that works amazingly well, and I will put a link in the description box to that recipe, but you really only need 3 ingredients to make it, and it works so well. I know, because I am a very stinky person, so go ahead and try it. I promise you will not stink. All right, next hack is to be prepared. This is something that I am constantly working on, but I need to be prepared for the rest of the week. I have a lot of people's schedules that I need to figure out, and I need to know where we're going and what meals to make because of what activities we have. And so I have a really nice planner, and I have to write everything down, and I have to keep everything in my phone, so that way I have alerts when we have appointments so I don't forget. But being prepared definitely helps. And if I know, okay, we have horseback riding on this evening, I need to have a crock pot meal in the crock pot, or something that can be easily thrown together with leftovers. And this just makes life so much easier. You're not guessing so much. And I can tell when I've kind of gotten out of this habit just how much harder things are. And it kind of just puts us into a pickle. We just feel like everything's a little bit off. And so being prepared has been super helpful. So make your schedule, make sure you have weeks or even months written down in advance, plan your meals to the week, keep a running grocery list, especially if you buy the same groceries all the time. If you have that list, you can cross out, make things easily findable that you need for that week. Like, oh, I'm out of salt, I need to grab that. If you already have a running list, you can just add it right to it. All right, so these are my last 2 tips, and they're probably my favorite tips because they have been life-changing, which sounds a little bit dramatic. But the first one is the 15-minute rule. I had the hardest time getting started doing any project because I would make it so big in my head and thinking it would take so much work and just get really frustrated, and then it would never get done. And so I started the 15-minute rule. And so I will set my timer for 15 minutes and I will work as hard as I can on this one thing for that time. And when the timer goes off, I can be completely done. What I've come to find out is that most of the time I'm like not ready to be done. So one project we've been working on is clearing out some blackberries to put fencing in. And this is a huge job. Like there's so many blackberries and they're overwhelming. And so I started this where every day there's sunshine. I'm going to go outside and do 15 minutes of work. And I find I can go a lot longer than 15 minutes, but I do have that kind of like opt out, like, okay, I got my 15 minutes done. Like that's what I want it to do. I can check it off my list. But it's kind of like, if you've heard the saying, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. It's that same concept. It's just that it's breaking it down into smaller parts. And I actually did this with my son the other day. They did a craft and they made a humongous mess in the house. Like it was almost unbelievable how big of a mess it was. And so I said, hey, how about I set a timer for you and see how fast you can get all this cleaned up? And it was amazing how much they accomplished. And he did such a good job cleaning it all up. And then when the timer went up, he said, can I have 5 more minutes? And I said, sure. So I set another timer 5 minutes and he worked so hard and he got it all done. And so it doesn't just work for me, but obviously it works for other people too. So if you have trouble starting projects or completing projects or procrastinating or any of that, I would really suggest starting the 15-minute rule and see just like how much you can accomplish. You can do this with cleaning, you could do this with projects, you could do it with almost anything, and it's just super helpful. The next recipe I am doing is my sourdough breakfast cookies. These are kind of like a mix of a cookie and a biscuit, and they have a lot less sugar than a normal cookie. They're more like a snack, like a to-go snack. But I actually tried to use my fresh milled grains, and this is the first time I ever used them, and it was a little bit dry, so I think next time I would probably add a little bit less flour than what it typically calls for. I will put that recipe in the description box below. Next up, I'm making another batch of my sourdough muffins using the fresh milled soft white wheat, and I have found that if you add a 1/4 cup of milk or water or some type of liquid to it, it makes it a lot better, a lot more fluffy. But of course I'm going to do a double batch, and I'm just doing cinnamon because my kids have been really enjoying these muffins for breakfast, and I don't really want to give them chocolate, and I didn't have blueberries, and so I just made them plain cinnamon, and they have been happy with that. But you can add whatever add-ins you want to for these. They're really delicious. Okay, the next part I just had to leave in here because while I was making my muffins, I had put the extra cookie dough into a bowl to make for later, and it just started to explode. And so I just had to add it in there because it was kind of crazy. I could not move those pans out fast enough. But all is well. We didn't get any glass into our muffins, so that was good. So now I'm just going to combine my 2 theories of the 15-minute rule and batching stuff. So I finished all my baking for the day, and so I set my timer for 15 minutes, and I just cleaned the kitchen as fast as I could and try to get as much done and wiping down everything, and I can get just about everything done and completed in that 15 minutes with making all that stuff. All right, and the last homemaking hack is to separate your laundry before you wash it. This has been life-changing for me. It was so stressful doing laundry for the family of 6. I would have just mountains and mountains of laundry sitting in front of our fireplace that we'd have to sort through, and it was like a weekly occurrence of, I wouldn't say weekly, it happened multiple times a week, of having to separate everything and to go to everybody's room. And so we got extra laundry baskets, and each child has a laundry basket, or if they share a room with a sibling, then they get one laundry basket. And the kids know that they just put their laundry into that laundry basket, and then I can dump all of my daughter's laundry one day and then, flip it over and then have her take it out of the dryer and go put it away. And this has been just life-changing. It makes mountains of laundry not happen. And it's easier for the kids too, because they're not throwing laundry everywhere while they dig through the piles. That's all I got. I hope you enjoy those tips. Make sure to like and subscribe.